Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the first Administrative Response Support session for the 2021-22 school year. My name is Rosie O'Brien-Voitek, and I am the Assistant Executive Director for the Connecticut Association of Schools. And it's my pleasure to welcome you to this early childhood professional learning opportunity for administrators of school-based early childhood programs. Today's session is Innovative Practices Implementing Lessons Learned from the Pandemic. Once again this year, we at CAS are very excited to collaborate with the Office of Early Childhood, the Connecticut State Department of Education, and the Regional Education Service Center's RESC Alliance to support the needs of all of Connecticut's youngest learners, including children with special needs and other vulnerable populations. During each of our monthly sessions this year, you will have an opportunity to reflect upon your current practices around specific topics as we dive deeper into each topic and discover effective strategies and techniques based on research and best practices. You'll also have the opportunity to meet and network with colleagues across the state, problem solve around common issues, share ideas, and learn with and from each other, as well as with some of our early childhood specialists from the RESC Alliance. There's so much to think about as we design and implement teaching and learning during this 2021-22 school year, especially for our youngest students across the state. So we're really glad that you're joining us here today. Before we get started, I want to give you just a couple of quick reminders. Everyone has been muted to begin with, but once you get into the breakout rooms, please unmute yourself to talk with each other. If possible, please turn your video on, as it's nice to be able to see everyone, especially when we're working in small groups. When we're working as a whole group, please ask questions in the chat or raise your hand.
Sorry. Sorry, Rosie, hold on one second. Rosie, unmute yourself.
Okay, where did I stop talking? Where did you stop hearing me?
About the breakout. We were at about breakout rooms. Sorry, okay, everyone.
Sorry, so we all got muted, just like I said. So I just want to remind you to please turn on your video when you're in the breakout rooms, and even when we're in the meeting, because it's nice to see everyone if we can. And we know that life gets in the way sometimes, and that's okay, but it is great to be able to see you. When we're working it as a whole group, please ask questions in the chat or raise your hand with the button at the bottom of the screen to be recognized. Also, please use the chat feature to ask questions, share ideas, and let us know if you experience technical problems during this Zoom meeting, as we will be monitoring the chat. However, when you're in the breakout rooms, the chat feature is only seen by the people in the breakout room. If you have questions or need help when you're in the breakout room, please use the button, the help button, and one of our hosts will respond. This webinar is being recorded, as you know, but only during the whole group activities. We're unable to record the small group conversation during the breakout room portion of this webinar. However, the rest of the webinar will be recorded and will be posted for future viewing on the CAS, OEC, CSDE, and RESC websites. So please be sure to share the link to this webinar with your colleagues once it's posted. And please invite your administrative colleagues to join us for future sessions. These sessions will be held on the first Thursday of every month from 9 to 10 a.m. Again, I'd like to welcome and thank all of you for joining us here today. It's now my pleasure to introduce our facilitator for this continued conversation, EastCon Early Childhood Specialist, Anne-Marie Davidson. Take it away, Anne-Marie.
Hi, everyone. How are you all this morning? I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for being here. We are here today to get us re-energized and reacquainted with this professional learning opportunity. So we're going to do a little bit of reflection and review from last year, and then start our conversations about how our re-entry and our reopening and return to school has gone. For those of you who were with us last year, you know that this is really an opportunity for you all to bring up issues and challenges that you're experiencing, and be able to share solutions that other administrators have used to those same kinds of problems. So we're going to follow that same format this year. Excuse me. And in a minute, I'm going to start sharing my screen, and I'm actually going to turn it over to Billian. Billian Mocha comes to us from CES. She is a new early childhood specialist at CES. We're really excited to have her, and she's going to start us off facilitating today's discussion. But welcome, everyone, and let me start sharing my screen.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you, Rosie.
We're already at the end there. See. All right. Oh, actually, sorry, my mistake. Andrea, we're going to hear a few words from Andrea before we get started.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so pleased to see that we have such a robust turnout for this event. It was our very strong feeling between all of the partners at CSD, OEC, CAS, and the RESC Alliance that last year really these sessions were very well received and that people did want to continue to have them. I will typically try to take a couple minutes to give you updates if I have any from CSDE, and I think that's actually sort of welcome. There's nothing new I have to share. There are no big emergencies or big announcements, which I think after the past year and a half is sort of boring, is sort of a welcome thing right now. So I just want to thank everybody for being here. I did notice that we have a very large turnout from our pre-K to grade 3 leaders through our Yukon group. So I welcome all of you. I encourage people to find out more about that program. You can message me directly, either call or email me, and I'd be happy to provide you with information. And just welcome today. And we really do appreciate you taking the time out of your busy days to be with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrea. All right, so before we get started, sort of to that end and connected to the pre-K to 3 leaders group, there are other opportunities that SDE and in early childhood special education that have been developed and we will be engaged in throughout the year. This is just an overview of those activities. There has been a save the date flyer that has been circulated and sent out. Jillian's going to put that into the chat just in case you haven't seen it. Very soon, individual flyers for each of these activities will be coming out with registration links. But right now, you will at least have access to the save the date. So if you want to share that with your preschool team, with people who support the preschool age children in your buildings. Those are all intended, again, to support preschool practice for children with IEPs in school district-based preschool programs. So I see that Jillian has put that in the chat. So go ahead and click on that and open it. As I said, registration links will be out soon, but at least the dates have been shared. Any questions about those activities or those offerings for people who have seen the flyer? Just pause for a minute. Okay, you can always reach out to any of the RESC early childhood people as well if you do have questions, or Andrea or Rosie as well. Okay. All right, so now finally, Jillian.
Okay, thank you, Anne-Marie.
Yeah.
So as we begin today's discussion, we're going to reflect on some of the challenges that we faced during the initial months, especially given the challenges of COVID. We've sort of felt like we've been navigating a storm. So we're going to take a moment to just reflect on some of the lessons learned through those initial 20 months, if you can believe that it's only been 20 months. And we've learned so much and we've changed so much in that brief period of time, really. And remember that we're still learning how to navigate this storm. So the purpose today is to also give you an opportunity to support each other by sharing any strategies and challenges that you've faced and how you've chosen to address those challenges.
All right, so last May, we did wrap up our year with having that conversation about lessons learned, because even though it really was a storm and we were all battling all of the changes and frequent needs to address the COVID situation, there were some things that we learned from it. And some of those were things that we felt and acknowledged that we wanted to be able to learn from and to be able to continue to problem solve. Some of them, for example, this lesson learned that inequity across our educational system does exist isn't something that we could have problem solved around and fixed in the 3 or 4 months that we had at the end of last year to look forward into this year. So some of the lessons learned, we really want to continue to think about and to revisit, perhaps because they actually caused a positive outcome, an unanticipated positive outcome, but also because they may be things that need to be addressed in a more long-term and systematic way. So these were some of the, right from that session in May, these were some of the lessons learned that participants generated. I think there were definitely some themes. Even if you weren't here last May, you can probably identify with some of these lessons learned. We also had a conversation at that session then about how we responded to those problems, to those issues, to those challenges. And looking forward as well, knowing that there are, you know, again, some social emotional, we were anticipating social emotional difficulties. So things like looping in terms of a response for this year were things that came up in that May session as well. So again, there were definitely some themes as people thought about what are the lessons we've learned, what are the challenges we anticipate, and what could be some ways that we respond in order to address those challenges. This is a continued list of those responses that people anticipated using or putting in place in order to address those challenges or in order to address the lessons that we learned from them. So I did want to just take a minute. I know I flashed through those lists fairly quickly, but if you take a look at this list right here, and we go back to this one, just put in the chat for us right now. Were one of these strategies a strategy that you put in place for the 22-23 school year, 21-22 school year? And how did it go? So if you chose looping, how's it been going? If you implemented home visiting over the summer or in the early fall, how is that going? So if you used one of these strategies and you planned, you know, based on some of the challenges that you anticipated, put in the chat for us right now what strategies you implemented and how have they been going so far this year. And if you implemented a strategy that's not on this list, feel free to put that in there too.
The extensive summer programming has been added to our list.
Right.
Some kindergarten readiness programs over the summer.
So using our summer to really address some of those areas of concern related to children's skill level and knowledge.
I see a lot of social emotional support, community partnerships.
Yep. Right. I think
strategic plan and coaching. A lot of really nice strategies.
Great. Does anyone want to unmute themselves and share anything that you feel has been really particularly successful? Certainly feel free to continue to enter things into the chat. Okay.
I also see a half-day kindergarten program to start, building connections with students and families, really focused on SEL and curriculum design with SEL as a focus.
Yep. So second part of the question to everyone, are you feeling like these are having are successful strategies? Are you seeing positive outcomes or the outcomes you were hoping from those strategies? Yes, no, maybe a little.
I see a lot of people also implemented Seesaw to have that sort of back and forth conversation, that connectivity with families.
Yep. Right. And again, in terms of lessons learned, I think that was one of the really big awareness raising moments was just how much richer our teaching and our practice becomes when we have that increased communication with families. And certainly, I think technology as a positive thing also kind of was one of those lessons learned that we came up with, right? And the ability to use apps like Seesaw really make that family communication much simpler and much more accessible to families. So continuing to use that is a wonderful outcome from a not so wonderful situation. Okay, great. Thank you all for sharing. That's actually what we just did right there. So I'm going to turn it back over to Jillian and let her review. We used this last year, but we're going to revisit it for people who didn't participate last year, and also as we're moving forward into our next discussion.
Okay. So as we prepare to have you all go into your breakout rooms for approximately 20 minutes, we just wanted to bring up this visual to, again, remind you, even though it seems like through your conversations in the chat, we're really acknowledging the fact that, you know, there's this triad sort of thing happening where home, school, and community are all, you know, interconnected and need to be. COVID sort of highlighted that need for that connectivity to really have a positive impact on student success. So, you know, as we enter these breakout rooms, thinking about some of these strategies that you've put in place for this new school year, you know, let's get more in depth about those conversations of, you know, what's working, what still is a challenge. I can see, you know, a lot of us are seeing sort of the impact that that virtual learning time had on independence, you know, classroom skills, you know, and we're now addressing those concerns as we enter this school year. So I'll also be sharing a document in the chat for you to enter these thoughts. And then when you return from your breakout rooms, please be prepared to discuss, you know, one of the successes or one of the challenges, and then an idea or a strategy that you used to respond to those. So I'm going to drop that document in the chat now. So please take a moment to open it so that you have it for your breakout rooms. And you may or may not still be muted when you enter your breakout room. So please be sure to check that your microphone is turned on.
And great. Take a minute to introduce yourselves when you get into your breakout rooms, and share with each other where you're from. Okay, are we ready? All right, I'm going to open the rooms. So as Jillian said, so we'll come back together at about 9:40. It's 9:20 now, so we'll come back together at about 9:40. All right. All right. See you all soon.
Six. So,
Sorry.
sorry. So I was thinking, oh my gosh, I'd love to talk to these people more often, just because, you know, we're sort of all in the same boat. But and please, my teammates there, jump in. But we talked about a big issue being that 50-50 split, and how we're really struggling as in our programs to maintain that 50-50 split, and we're, you know, just the lack of peer role models for our special education students, and how strict is the state going to be about keeping up with that 50-50? You know, I know last year they were a little lenient with it, but where are we headed with that? And then we talked about the beginning of the conversation, we talked a little bit about special education hours and how that relates to the 50-50. And we also talked about just parent involvement and the challenges around getting parents involved. And then also just for students who haven't had a school experience before and they don't have those readiness skills to be in a classroom, sort of how are we addressing that? And specifically like at a kindergarten level, if a child hasn't had that preschool experience coming into a kindergarten and you know, having those, you know, readiness skills you know, to be able to be part of a group and things like that. So that's what we talked about. I don't know if I hit it. Sorry.
No, thank you, Megan.
Megan, I wanted to share one of your successes that she stated she was talking with her social worker and they thought about having parents bring their beach chairs to the school campus and be able to build that parent connectivity again as
Right.
when the weather cooperates for now.
Right.
And one of the challenges that we saw here was in deference to how little kids learn, right? They're touching, they're licking, they're putting stuff in their mouths, they're on top of each other. And while respecting that piece of how kids developmentally kind of engage with each other in the curriculum, also creating a culture of like health so that we're not transmitting COVID and other viruses around, but you know, balancing all of that out. And I think somebody said it wonderfully, trying to contact trace kids of this age, like kind of trying to contact trace a bunch of birds, right? I mean, good luck. It's but it was getting folks, the teaching staff, over that anxiety hump as well around, you know, am I going to be held accountable to that? How do I do this? How do I teach at the same time keep them safe? That was a pretty big challenge because there was a lot of concepts behind that.
I think we're also, I talked a little in my group about making that big leap from what they were able to do as a learning environment in preschool and now what they're facing in kindergarten. And, you know, should we have had them practice being 3 feet apart? No, because they needed to grow and we wanted them to progress in the ways that we could. But I'm really struggling with that now as they're in kindergarten and it's really hard to adjust to the environment there.
My typing is terrible. Just, you know, I'll get that right away.
Okay, so we've obviously brought up a lot of challenges. And I did hear about some successes too in our breakout rooms around social emotional learning and the real push and dedication to growing that area of the curriculum. Does anyone else have any successes that they want to share with the group?
Because of COVID and staffing issues, et cetera, that were emerging from that around paraprofessionals, some teaching staff, we ended up merging together the concept of our Family Resource Center programming with our early childhood 50-50 classrooms, self-contained classrooms at one of our buildings. And because of that, we're now looking at ourselves as kind of a unified source of services for kids. That was never the case. So born out of this COVID thing, because of a crisis, we merged everybody together. And because of that, we're getting a higher level of efficiency in our body work, more consistency. We're guaranteeing kids, despite the programs that they're in, kind of a guaranteed experience because they're all the same brand for kids going to the same buildings. And we should offer quality support, whether it's a private pay, an FRC paid seat, a readiness seat, whether it's a special education student or a 50-50 role model, should all get the same robust experience. And we merged our resources around that. And the ultimate goal, hopefully, being that anybody walking into the building in the next couple months won't know what classroom is what and how it's working. So far, so good, because the professional development that's coming out of that, the quality of our FRC programming has increased. Our access to potential mentors. I heard there was an issue of finding mentors. Well, if you merge with your FRC, there's classrooms full of kids who have pretty high performance, some of them, that you can tap into for mentors for your 50-50s. So it's offering a lot of opportunity. That's all I got.
Jillian. Hi, Jillian.
Hi, Amy.
I think, you know, one of our biggest successes that my teachers have been talking about, and we didn't get to talk about this in our group. We were talking about some other points, but one of our biggest successes was that our parents all felt at the end of the year that they had learned so much more about how to work with their children at home because of their virtual experiences. So we happened to be in school all year last year, but anytime we had done some virtual work the spring before, and we had been sending home tons and tons of information about how to play with their children at home, either through video or activities that they could complete. And all of our meetings had become virtual. So parents had so much more access to the teachers. They didn't have to take off from work. They could jump into a meeting and they could talk about their child and learn something while they were talking about their child. We got very comfortable with doing video of children in the classroom with the teacher and sharing that with the parent. And parents love it when they're able to see how to play with the farm with their child, or see how to build the block tower, and then use that as a math lesson for their kindergartner. And I have to tell you that I really think of one of the biggest successes that came out of this whole big mess that we are in is that we are educating parents in development, in what to expect their child to do at home, and in how to interact with their children in play at home again. We had moved, I think society has moved very far away from playing with children at home into this more virtual experience with children playing with video games or iPads. And I think people bought toys and people started taking their children to the park again. And I think our group here in Greenwich was really, really pleased to hear that from parents and to hear how much they learned about how their child was learning.
I put district names in there because maybe we might want to bug you guys to elaborate a little, not today, but in the future discussion to share with everyone. So more to the how did you do that? What, technology did you use? Those kinds of things. So maybe.
So to piggyback on what Charles mentioned in Branford, so how we did that was we created a new position, Director of Early Childhood Programs, which is something I'm in right now. So having that lens of that early childhood experience to be able to move the capacity within our programming to merge everyone having those similar experiences is kind of the how and what we did. So that recognition of the importance of having that expertise and leadership is essential, because not everybody in a district has that early childhood lens.
Anne Marie, I think along with what you were saying, to maybe get some of our districts to share some of the strategies and things that they're using. Some of the people in my group are wondering if there's a way that we can have an exchange of email addresses so that if anybody on here wants to contact someone else, they can do that. I don't know, this may not be the most efficient way, but I don't always come up with the most efficient strategies. If you do not want your email address shared as a out to our group, then you can email me directly and I'll make sure, and then so within the next day I'll put together an email distribution list. So only if you do not want to be included in that email distribution list, email me directly. And you should all have my email, I believe. It's adavidson@eastcon.org if you don't have it. The other thing,
if you want to be included, don't email me.
The other thing,
Rosie.
Yeah, not to muddy the waters, but we've got a lot of people that also registered that aren't, that didn't show up. I'm just wondering, maybe the easier way is if you'd like to be included in an email, put your email in the chat right now, and then Anne Marie will know that you're willing to.
And I have to take the emails from the chat and plug them in. This way I could just use our registration list. So
okay. Either way, whatever, go for it.
then I can just take people out of the registration list. I anticipate those numbers are going to be fairly small in terms of who does not want to be included. And I think maybe setting the parameter that really is the purpose of reaching out at an individual level and not like the reply all kind of a thing. Because we all know we get lots of those emails.
Anne Marie, you may want to, when we have the next set of registration for this, just have a
Yep.
checkbox, just have a
Sure.
checkbox saying,
Yeah.
you know, I
Yep.
don't want my information shared.
Right.
If they check
Yep.
it off, then
Yep.
don't.
I'm writing that down too. Someone will still need to remind me. Okay. So we also, as Rosie said, we upload PowerPoints and the recordings to the CAS website, SDE website, RESC Alliance website, but we can also put the note catcher document, we can upload that as well. So people can see the full list of what people discussed in their breakouts.
I think that's a great
Okay.
idea. And then we can also post our office hours there as
Right.
well.
So, sorry. So as Jillian just mentioned, we're adding a second component to the responsive support sessions this year. They are follow-ups to our responsive support sessions. The reason that each RESC is running one is just simply to allow for a variety of days of the week and times of the day. You don't have to join the RESC office hours in your region. Again, they're just a variety of dates and times because schedules, sometimes we need that. So after every office hours once a month, each RESC is offering, or I'm sorry, after every responsive support session, each RESC is offering a follow-up office hours. They're unstructured, sort of just drop-in time to be able to continue to have follow-up discussion about the topic or theme of the responsive support session that month. So we're trying them out. We'll see how they go. This is the list of the day of the week and the time and the start date. But again, when you get the follow-up email to this session, there will be links to join. You don't need to register for these. They'll just be links, Zoom links to be able to join each of the sessions. Any questions, comments, thoughts about that addition to these sessions? Okay.
So this is just a reminder of the rest of the dates that we'll be meeting this school year. We'll continue to have these discussions available to you on the first Thursday of every month from 9 to 10. So we hope that you'll continue to join us. And in addition, following this session, you will have an opportunity to fill out a survey so that you can suggest a topic that we can focus on during our discussions as we move forward. So, you know, these conversations are guided by you and your needs. So please take advantage of that survey.
Absolutely. We always try to share some resources. The OEC has released a new white paper and infographic on screening and assessment in early childhood. While this roundtable or this responsive support session wasn't necessarily only about screening and assessment, I did see some information in the note catcher that did indicate that maybe this would be a supportive resource related to some of the needs that were coming up. So those that resource is there. And then just a reminder that Early Childhood Special Education has their own page on the SDE website. And so that is where new information is placed and uploaded. So don't forget to check that page out on a regular basis or check it out now because there might be resources on there that you didn't know already exist. I will put the link to both of those in the chat now.
Okay, and I will also put a copy of the link for the survey in the chat. And if you are so inclined, you can also hover your smartphone over the QR code, and that will easily bring up the survey so that you can complete it very quickly as well.
So thank you everyone for joining. And as Jillian said, these sessions are driven by your needs. So please make sure you take advantage of sharing that information with you. And then we also will use what we saw in the notes today and through our discussion today to help frame our next session. You can also always reach out to any of the RESC early childhood people if something comes up in between now and then, and share with them a topic or theme that you feel would be really valuable to drive one of these sessions. Questions before we go, comments, thoughts, any feedback, verbal feedback for people who would like to share verbally with us right now, please feel free. All right, bye-bye. Thank you again, everybody. We'll see you in a month. There is a separate registration link for next month. You'll receive that as part of the follow-up email to today as well.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye,
Thanks
everyone.
for coming. Hope to see you next month.
Have a great month.